Hi, very nice to meet you on my next presentation, which is based on the file management systems. So in this we are going to discuss the file organization and its access. So in this way mainly we are focusing on what is the structure every record and every files is going to have, and how we are going to access the particular fields in the fields of the respective files, whether we need to have any key element which is required or any hash value is required to access the particular file, or any indexes are there to access the particular files. So in general we can say that every file organization, it should have some constraints, that is it should have some criteria. So it have to satisfy those criteria for effective utilization of the file organizations, especially in terms of to improving the efficiency of the system. Obviously we need to address all the various criteria which is specified in this presentation, and we have 5 more structures are there for accessing the files in the proper order. So let me go with this presentation one by one, so that we will get to know the details of the various file system structures. So the file organization, it's typically it refers to the logical structuring of the record. So it gives a logical structure of the particular records in which it says how we are going to access the particular data, so that is in what way in which we are going to access. Okay, and it also deals about the physical organization of the file system, especially in the secondary storage, but it depends upon the two strategy. One is called as a blocking strategy, because all the secondary storage devices are divided into the number of blocks, and a file allocation strategy, whether we want to use the least LRU or MRU or FIFO order, something like that. And as I said earlier, we have certain criteria. One is shortest access time. Obviously when we have any file system hierarchy or organization or structure in our operating system, the accessing of the file, it should have very less time. If it is having a higher time, obviously the throughput will degrade like anything. The performance of the system will go down, so that the shortest access time is highly required, whatever may be the organizations we are having. And next, ease of update. Obviously the main reason for having the file system is for to performing certain operations on our own data. So whenever if there is any operations we did, after that we need to update into the details into the files, so that the updation concepts, it should be in a easier way, so that it will helpful for us to update the data to maintain the consistency of the data. And economy for storage. The third criteria is economy of storage and simple maintenance. It should not have any complex structures and complex maintenance, so that it is easy for boosting up of the system performance. And reliability. Even if any failures in one node, and how we are going to regain the particular thing, so that can be dealt with the help of the reliability. So which criteria we want to use? Obviously it is based on the applications, what is the applications we are going to use. In say for an example, in CD-ROM it is not necessary we are going to update anything. So the file stored in the CD-ROM, we are going to update in the CD-ROM. So the ease of update, we are not going to worry on ease of update criteria like that. So every criteria may conflict, it depends upon the applications. For example, so for economy of storage, there should be a minimum redundancy in data. So we have to maintain the redundancy among the data, so that we can improve the economy of storage. So once we can say the improve redundancy, obviously we need to increase the speed of the particular increase the speed of access to data. So how we can able to improve the access, which is based on the concept of the index. every files it should have a indexes, then only we can easily retrieve or access the particular file in a faster manner, so that we can get the fastest or the shortest access time. In general, we have the 5 fundamental organizations are there. One that is called as the pile, second one the file system, and second one is the sequential file organization, the indexed sequential file, and the indexed file, then the direct or hashed file. So every file organization is having its own pros and cons. It depends upon the applications and feasibility. We can make use of these various file organizations, but in the pile it is a very complex structures. Okay, so this is a typical this is a diagrammatic representation of the pile structures and sequential file. See in the diagrammatic representation itself, in the pile it have a complex structure because it is not having a uniform structures. The length of the data, length of the field is not a uniform, it is a variable length, and it is not segregated with the field. It is only used for to store the massive data. So if I want to store the massive data, I can go ahead with this file systems. So every file is a collection of bursts of data, whereas in a sequential file we are having, it is a fixed length. It is a fixed length, that is all the records, all the files are in the files are records in the fixed length. It have a field name and it have a field value. So we can say easily to store the particular value in the field name, and the indexed sequential file and the indexed file. So in this indexed sequential file, when compared to pile and sequential file, we have one new concept which is called as a overflow file, which will help the systems to optimize its own performances. Okay, and next one is called as a indexed files. So these are all a diagrammatic representation of the various file organizations which we are going to study see in this presentation. So pile. So as I said, the pile is a least complicated form of file organization. So how the data is stored is what is the how it is arrived, in what way it is arrived, the same order we are going to store the data. And as I said earlier, it is only the burst of a data, and main purpose is to accumulate the mass of data and save it. Okay, and it have a different fields, and all the fields are in the same different orders. In every field they have a self-describing, so it have a field value as well as the field name. And the length of the each file, it depends upon we can define the length of the each file in implicitly way and explicit way. If it is an implicit, it have a delimiters, that is it have some values, and in an explicitly way we have a subfields are there, so we can define the field type also. And there is no structure in the pile file. If we want to search any file, we need to search the entire record. So we want to have the exhaustive search. So obviously the file access time is keep on increases. So if I want to access any record, so what I want to do is I want to examine or I want to access or search all the records, whether designated record is be achieved or not. Otherwise, we have to search the entire file to identify the specific record. Pile files are encountered when data are collected or stored prior to processing, or when data are not easy to organize. So these only these conditions only the pile files are used. And pile files, it uses this system architecture, and it have a exhaustive search, and it is very easy to update. Beyond these limited uses, these files system are unsuitable for most of the applications. So we are using the next file system is a sequential file system. It is the most common file structures in maximum every operating system. It uses these concepts, and it have a fixed format, and it have a same length, and every length it can be identified with the having of the field value as well as also the field name. So with the help of the field name we can easily store the particular value of the field. Okay, so now this value, then length and name is all these things are belongs to the attributes of the particular file structures. One beauty of the sequential file is we have a key element which is not there in the pile file, because the pile file it is not segregated as a field, it is a bus of data, whereas in a sequential file we have a variety of fields are there. So every first field in each record is identified as a key field, so the searching can be done, that is the accessing can be done only with the help of this key field. So now this key field is uniquely identifies a particular record so that we can easily access a particular record. But the file is stored in a sequential manner. Suppose if we are using the alphanumerical key, that is a text key, so obviously that the files are stored in alphabetical order from A to Z. If it is a numerical key, then it is stored in the numerical order from 0 to 9. And the sequential files are typically used in batch operating systems. If we want to optimize optimum for such applications, if they involve processing all the records, that is it is especially used in the payroll processing and billing purposes. And the sequential file is easily stored in tape and as well as also the disk drives. But in interactive applications, now this sequential file it gives a poor performance because it involves queries and response systems. So when we issue the queries, it has to search the entire record so that it produces the poor performance. So access can be done only with the help of the key matches. Okay, in case if we want to, if we have a more efficient search techniques, when we need to have the more efficient search technique is if I want to search the entire file or the larger portion of the file, and then obviously I need to bring the entire file into the main memory at a stretch, then I have to use the effective searching techniques to identify the respective record. So it leads to the considerable processing and delay. So that is a major reason the performance is degraded in sequential file systems. So in the sequential file system, we are using the one special file which is separated in the pile file, that is called as a log file, to understand the transactions happened in the particular files. That is when they have edited, at what time it is modified, all these things will be maintained in that. It uses only the batch update. So we can easily merge the log file to identify the exact key sequences of the particular search. And suppose if this concept is very tedious, there is another way to maintain the sequential file, that is called as, we can make use of the linked list to maintain the sequential files in the linked list order. So one or more records are stored in each physical block, and each block or a disk contains a pointer to the next block, so that the insertion can be done and deletion can be easily done with the help of that pointers. Suppose if you want to insert any new item into the block, so the pointer manipulation will be done, but it is not assured that every time the pointer defines some locations, in that locations only we want to store the particular data, it is not required. So next is indexed sequential file. There is some disadvantages in the sequential file. So to overcome that, we are using the indexed sequential file. So it is a combination of the both the index value as well as also the sequence of files. The files are arranged in the sequential manner, and accessing mechanism is done with the help of the indexing value. Okay, so it acts as a lookup value. So how can we say the index value is? We can say the lookup value, so that the performance will boost up like anything, because the access time of the particular file is very easier way with the help of this index value. And this is a way more popular approach, and it have the two features are added in that. One is called as the index value is added because to support the random access, and a overflow file. So the overflow file is integrated. It is similar to the log file, which is integrated into the record to identify the pointer to which the predecessor record also. So it consists of the two field. One is a key field and another one is a pointer into the main file. So if I want to search a 1 million records, assume that if I want to search a 1 million records, if my sequential file, the length of my sequential file is a 1 million record, that is a size of my sequential file is a 1 million record. So with the help of the indexed sequential file, the accessing time with the help of the key value is average 1/2 million record access. So if I want to access the 1000 entries file, so we need only the 500 accesses. So that way we can reduce the file access time to improve the performance in indexed sequential file. So it gives a better efficiency in access because a multi-level levels of indexing can be used. So next, the indexed file. One major disadvantage, even though it is a most popular file system, but the major disadvantage of the indexed sequential file is always the first field in the record is acting as a key value. Suppose if I want to use a multiple key value to search my own data, now the indexed sequential file doesn't support that concept. That's why we have migrated into the new file system, that is new file system organization, that is called as a indexed file. For effective processing of the file systems. So the flexibility is very high. It have a multiple indexes, so every records are accessed through their indexes, and there is no restrictions on the placements of record, and it uses the two indexes, one a exhaustive index and second one a partial index. So the exhaustive index is it pointed into the main file. So the index itself is organized in the sequential order, whereas the partial index contains entries to records where the fields of interest exist. Whenever a new file is added into the main file, obviously the entire system is supposed to be updated because the index value will change. So the well-known example for this type of file organization is airline reservation systems and inventory control systems. The last but not least, the final file system is file organization is the direct or hashed file. So here we can access the particular file system in the direct manner. So it uses the hashing value on the particular key. So with the help of that hashing value, we can directly access the specific files. For examples, directories, pricing tables, schedules, and name list. I hope you are familiar with the various file system organizations in which how we are going to improve the performances of the operating systems. Thank you.